Okay, so this is day 2. Happy July 4th to everyone. We are going to replace the belt. Finally got all the parts in. This is the new belt. Let's compare it to the old belt. They are roughly in the same shape, same diameter, so I don't believe we have too much stretch on the old belt. There's definitely a lot of features on the inside that are different. You can actually see there's like a thickness difference, a little wear on the old belt. So I guess you can go either way, but my general preference is to always try to do any bolting without any tension, so you don't get a false positive or false torque. So I'm going to start by putting the pulley back onto the shaft, drive shaft, transmission, and then we'll finish up by getting the belt over the, I guess the pulley from the engine. So now we got the belt installed, pulley. Got to make sure that the belt actually goes, through the guides here, and then down to drive shaft. That just goes up into position when the blades attach. Now we'll start attaching the cowlings. We'll start with the rear one. The discharge chute. Before we get too far with the cowling, I've got the first bolt installed right here, and I'll get the remaining 4 installed. I went ahead and bought a replacement return spring. So this goes to a little hole, a little top of the flange of the transmission, and it goes over to the top of this plastic flange right here. So this takes a little bit of trickiness. Got to get a needle nose plier in there. So let me get that done. Okay, so the spring is in. I found it slightly easier to start with the spring installed on the plastic side and to grab the tip of the hook of the I guess flange side and kind of guide it two-handed into the hole. So it's in there. Let's get the rest of this cowling in. Okay, so we have all the bolts in for the discharge chute. With the left side, with the right side bolts. And on the right side, there's a 10mm right there. Look underneath. So generally when you tip it over to your left, at least for this engine, you have an oil fill port right here. You don't want to tip this over too far over to the left, otherwise you'll dump out all the oil. Also generally, I guess my understanding is you always tip the engine away from the muffler. So in this case, just got it about 45 degrees, you should be okay. Obviously if you're going to do this and you have fuel in here, and you're tipping it to the right hand side, you want to make sure that the fuel is all dumped out. Now we got to get the belt cover back on underneath. So in general we're going to try to balance the bolts at the top with the bolts at the bottom, and then tighten them all up after you get them all kind of finger tight. Plastic cowling in place. Get a 13mm bolt at the bottom and the 2 10s on top, finger tight. I'll tighten them down. So we finished up installing the belt cover, put on the blade, also reinstalled the battery box. This is held by a 13mm bolt also, but it's noticeably different than the one underneath holding the belt cover. This one has serrations at the bottom. So all we have to do left now is just check the oil, refill it if necessary, fuel it up, and give it a go. That's all. Also, you may want to readjust the tension on the belt here so that when you pull, you can feel the engagement. That's it.